The past 4 years I lived in 4 different countries. It was a bit of an exceptional situation, I guess, and I thought it'd be nice today to reflect on it a little bit and talk about my experience. This video was inspired by a podcast I did. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday. It's a bit crazy to live in 4 different countries in 4 years. So yeah, I mean, maybe there's people going through a similar thing or they're thinking about living abroad. So I will basically talk about some of the most common questions I get, and then I will talk about just kind of my experience. I guess it's a bit of advice. I guess it's just a bit me talking about my experience, I guess. But you can take away whatever you want from it. Yeah, I just hope it's useful for people who are thinking about moving abroad and kind of what comes into play, I guess. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is that lately, or the past few years, I've seen a lot of content about living abroad, studying abroad, moving abroad, and there's this whole movement of kind of romanticizing living abroad. I mean, I'm basically part of this whole problem, right? Because I post about my journey living abroad. So there are just some things too that I want to clarify, because people only show this really nice picture of packing your bags and then moving to a new home and making new friends, but like moving abroad can be very hard. Yeah, like when I started doing Instagram like 10 years ago, there were not many people posting about living abroad. It was quite a rare thing, at least for my country. A lot of people did like an exchange for 6 months, but not many people moved abroad to do like a whole studies, right? And I could really tell like over the past 10 years that I've been on social media, this whole study abroad thing just became so popular, like so popular. So yeah, hopefully today I can kind of rectifying this image too, I guess. Yeah, I will give a quick overview where I lived. So in 2022, I lived in the Netherlands, which is my home country. I'm Dutch. I did my undergraduate studies there in a place called Maastricht, really wonderful city. Then halfway 2022, I moved to Sweden to pursue my master's degree at Lund University. In 2023, I lived in Sweden. In 2024, I lived in Sweden. I went to Japan for a short exchange for research. Then I went back to Sweden, and then I moved to Japan to work on the JET program, and actually I made a video about it not so long ago. So if you want to know about that experience, you can find a video on my channel. And then last year in 2025, I moved to Norway to pursue a PhD at the University of Oslo. So I got a new job basically. So yeah, it's been a journey. I never really thought about it a lot. I would just like look for the opportunities. I really wanted to study abroad, so I did that. And then I wanted to work in Japan, so I did that. And then I wanted to do a PhD, so I did that. I've never really reflected on the international pinball machine that is my life now, basically. And I guess now I will kind of just walk through all the countries, right? So I moved from the Netherlands to Sweden to do my master's degree in Asian studies at Lund University. I'm from a very small country that is barely visible on a world map. And many people cannot point to this country as well, I realized. So yeah, just where I live, because my country is so small, there are not many opportunities for the things I want to do, like pursue graduate degrees, or it's just all very limited. When I was an undergraduate student, I lived in Japan for 6 months in beautiful Nagano prefecture. I enjoyed my 6 months abroad so much. I loved being somewhere else. I loved meeting all these cool people I got to meet from all these countries. And I was just really feeling like, wow, I would love to do this again, right? So yeah, when I finished my undergraduate degree, I worked for a year in Maastricht. And then I looked for a master's degree in my own country, but it was quite difficult. There were many entrance examinations and it was quite expensive. I had some friends some people I knew from the internet, like my internet friends. And she just said like, why don't you go to Lund University? Studying in Sweden is free. I was like, what? I was like, but I'm not Swedish. And they're like, no, if you're from the EU, you can study for free. I think people really don't like to talk about this. And actually that's what I talked about on the podcast too. But for me, what was very important was the financial picture. I think many of these people who post about living abroad, studying abroad, I think many of them have like a rich family or something. So for example, I would have loved to go to the UK or go to America, but basically that didn't fit in my budget, right? Anyways, my friend told me, you can study in Sweden for free. You just need to get the money to like live there for 2 years, right? I didn't even think of it, but there are so many good universities in Europe. especially in Scandinavia. Yeah, and I looked up Lunar University, it looked really great. The program seemed like a good fit as well. Well, in the end it was a good fit. I really enjoyed my time there. It was absolutely amazing. Maybe I'll make a video about it sometime into more detail about my time in Sweden. So what I did, I found a scholarship from my undergraduate institution. And then I worked for a whole year, so I just saved a lot of money. And then together with this scholarship, I could spread out enough money to live in Sweden for 2 years. And it was also much easier to find a suitable program in Sweden. Because in my country, I went to applied sciences, and there's an ongoing debate in my country, which is like, is applied sciences real university or not, right? Like, this discussion is just like very silly, right? But it brings in like a lot of barriers for people like me who want to go to university. Like in my own country, I had to do a pre-master, I had to take an entrance exam, and all these people who did bachelors at the universities, they didn't have to do all of that. And I just felt the whole system was quite unfair. I just looked up university in Sweden, and it just said on the website, University of Applied Sciences is the same as University in Sweden, so you can just apply. And I was like, why would I go through all this trouble and pay like a 2,000 euro tuition fee if I can just go to Sweden? And I did. And then towards the end of my studies in 2024, I applied to the JET program. It was wonderful. I moved to Hiroshima Prefecture in Japan. It was really great. I loved my time there. I made so many friends. Also in Sweden, I made a lot of friends. It was weird because I really wanted to go to Japan, but I felt so sad leaving my life in Sweden behind. I think if you live somewhere for a year, it's just like a year in your life, but 2 years is quite a long time. And I think in 2 years you can really build a life for yourself. So I had built like a whole life in Sweden. I even learned Swedish because I thought I was gonna stay there, or like either pursue a PhD there or just some other kind of job. Yeah, so I lived in Hiroshima Prefecture, worked as an ALT. I made a video about it so you can hear about my experience in there. And then I was gonna stay in Japan for 2 years, but I found this really wonderful job opportunity in Norway. So instead of 2 years, I applied to this job and then packed all my stuff after 1 year and moved to Norway, where I am now. And actually today is literally like 6 months ago that I left Japan, I think. So yeah, I've been here, and this is basically the journey I've made. So the reason basically why I moved abroad so many times, or moved to a different country so many times, is because I just saw like good opportunities that I could not have in my own country. I think something else that's very important to note, that I moved voluntarily from my country. Like, it's a very privileged position, obviously. Not everyone can do it. I did it to take good opportunities, and there are many people who just have to like move because of the political situation or the economical situation. So yeah, I think that's very important to keep in mind. So basically a question I get quite a lot is, how do you move abroad, or kind of what happens when you move abroad? What do you do when you want to move abroad? So I've only ever moved abroad for studying or work. I've met people who just moved abroad because they're like, I want to live in a different country, which I really don't know how that works. It's very difficult because in many countries when you go there and you sign up at the municipality, they want you to have a reason to be here, like you can't just come basically. Even for Sweden is an EU country, so technically you can move there. Technically you can just move to Sweden if you're an EU citizen, but if you want a Swedish personal number, you need to have like a reason to live there, like you need to study or work. And also I don't really know how people who just like move abroad, like how they finance that. I would never recommend anyone to move abroad if you don't have a purpose there, unless like you have no other, like unless you have to like move abroad for some reason, like you have to leave your country for some reason. I think it's not a good idea to just go to a country and then have no plan, and you will have no money to, like you cannot live. I just happen to live in quite expensive countries, like Sweden is an expensive country, Norway is a very expensive country. Japan's also quite expensive, but the yen has dropped in value, so it's not as expensive as it used to be. So yeah, so basically, to get back to the question, what happens when you move abroad? There's almost kind of the physical dimension, like there are things you have to do, and then there's the paperwork trail. So basically when you move abroad, you have to pack up all your stuff. You have to get rid of a lot of stuff. If you like stuff, you have a problem. I don't like to form attachments to things. Just don't have a lot of stuff, basically. If you don't have a lot of stuff, your life will be very easy. Like, I remember leaving Japan and I just packed 2 bags and I sent 1 box of stuff and that was it. Like, I didn't have a lot of stuff. I also just give away a lot of things to friends, to charities. Oh yeah, and then second, there's kind of the paper trail. So when you leave, you have to go to your municipality, you have to sign off. It obviously depends on the country, but you have to go there and be like, I'm gonna live abroad. Then in the new country, you have to go and register, right? This can be a bit, I had so many weird situations where I remember moving from Japan and I had to deregister in Japan, and then I had to get an insurance. Also, when you move a lot abroad, you will know everything about insurance. Like, I could probably start my own insurance company at this point. Anyways, so I had to get insurance, and the insurance asked me for my legal address, because the insurance was from me moving from Japan to Norway. And technically I had an address, like I had a place to live in Norway, I just wouldn't be able to register it until I would come there. So technically I didn't have an address. So I remember asking the insurance kind of like, I don't have an address for this period of time, which is really, it was really weird to think like, whoa, I don't live anywhere. That's kind of crazy. But you will like, if you move to a bunch of different countries, you will fall in all these like loopholes and these weird situations. Insurance people, immigration people, often they're also just like, I don't know what to do with this, like, because they so rarely encounter it, right? So I guess I have a few points of advice. I'm not sure if it's advice or I think it's just things I kind of reflected upon. Maybe it's just things I learned from living abroad. You have to be proactive. You have to go out there, ask things, get your foot in the door. Keep asking things if you don't understand something. You will get a lot of paperwork. You will get a lot of paperwork. I've done so much paperwork. And I think also something really important, especially the first time you move somewhere abroad, is do not rely on other people. Other people are nice, and definitely ask for help. Like, if you can ask for help, you should always ask for help, especially with these paperwork things. But do not rely on people, other people, not because they don't want to help you, but because often they just can't. Like, they don't know. Like I just mentioned the example, right, of the insurance employee I called and he was like, I don't know what to do. And it's not because he didn't want to help me, he just hadn't really encountered this situation where someone legally didn't have an address. Like, it just rarely happens. So some people, they don't know what to do, and it's not their fault. Like, these things are so weird and they're new. For example, I had very smooth immigration in Sweden. Like, I just went to the municipality and they did all the papers. I got my Swedish personal number, which you need to live and breathe in Sweden. In Japan, it was pretty smooth because my company was doing a lot of the paperwork for me. But now in Norway, it's been really rough. Like, immigrating in Norway is very difficult. I ran into many problems, and often when I asked people, it was not like they didn't want to help me, but they just didn't know what to do. Yeah, so it's not that people don't want to help you, they just don't know what to do. It's a very weird kind of space you sometimes find yourself in. Another thing, which I think is very important, especially with this new kind of social media trend about moving abroad, is that it's a big deal to move somewhere. It's a big deal to uproot your life and leave your family behind, or your friends, or your kind of safety net you've built. You should really not underestimate it, and even when it doesn't seem like a big deal to other people, it's okay if it's a big deal to you. It's completely fine. It's okay to not fit in immediately, and maybe just not fit in at all ever. This kind of fitting in situation or integration situation is very different for everyone in different countries. Like, for example, in Sweden, it's really weird because my Swedish is not that good. I speak kind of like intermediate Swedish. But yeah, I felt really that I integrated in Swedish society really well for some reason. I learned Swedish, I had a great time, thought it was really nice. So in Japan it was very different because as a foreigner, or like a certain type of foreigner, like, people don't expect you to fit in. But then when you do kind of fit in, people appreciate it. And then in Norway, I mean, I've only been here for a short time, I kind of fit in, but I don't really, at the same time, I don't really feel like I fit in. But people really want you to fit in, or at least like the environment I find myself in. I feel like people really want you to learn Norwegian, act Norwegian, be Norwegian. It's very interesting. But yeah, I like it a lot in Norway, but just this whole attitude towards fitting in and immigration per country is just so different. And I can't really say much about my own country because I'm from there. But from my international friends in the Netherlands, I heard it can be really tough. People really have like high expectations of you. And also, it's okay if you don't know how to do things. It's okay if you don't know how to do everything. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes if you can learn from the mistakes to some degree. So if you live in a bunch of different countries and you just kind of rotate around the globe, it's very important to get to know yourself. Because if you don't make an active effort to get to know yourself, you will eventually run into yourself. So people talk a lot about getting to know yourself, right? And I feel like most people who say that, they don't know what that means. They're just like, you need to get to know yourself, like your good sides and your bad sides. But when you ask people, okay, what do you mean by that? No one really has the answer. Especially living abroad, basically what will happen to you, you will be put in a bunch of situations you have never encountered before. Really depending on where you go. Like maybe if I had moved to Germany, which is similar to my country, I would have not been in these situations. But I lived in Japan and I live in Sweden and Norway. So for example, something I learned about myself is that I can be very calm in like disaster situations or when things go horribly wrong. Yeah, so I moved to Japan, and Japan is known for having earthquakes, natural disasters, and there have been times when I was in Japan and there was an earthquake and it was like a really bad earthquake. So yeah, in those moments, especially if there's an earthquake, you never really know what's gonna happen because you feel basically, for those who don't know what, like have never experienced earthquake, you're just sitting and you're just chilling somewhere with your friends, or you're just chilling in your bed, like in your room, and the ground starts shaking. And most of the time it's fine because it's quite common and it just shakes like a little bit and then it's over. But if it shakes for some time, you really don't know what's gonna happen, right? So you're just like, oh, is it like really bad? Is it gonna get worse? Do I have to go out of the place? What should I do? It's really important in these situations to kind of assess your reaction. So yeah, you will just learn like a lot of things about yourself. Like you will be put in situations you have never been in before. And these are not just only disasters, right? Also like interactions with people. But yeah, it's really important to get to know yourself, and also to allow to get to know yourself, like allow these kind of experiences to happen, and then to like not judge yourself, but just see at your reaction and see how you kind of go through the world. And the more of these experiences you have, the better you will get to know yourself. This is what I think is kind of the definition to get to know yourself, to see and observe yourself in these situations, and then later think, okay, this was like a good thing I did, this was a good reaction I had, this was not a good reaction, like I should work on that. And I think if you have this like this first step of getting to know yourself, it becomes much easier to be confident and have kind of like a really grounded sense of who you are. And especially if you move around a lot, people have a lot to say. If you're a people pleaser, it's just get rid of this immediately. Because if you go to all these countries and not everyone is going to like you, like you're going to run into people that are really not nice, and they don't understand, right? Because they have never been somewhere new, like they're just used to doing their own thing in their own place. Not everyone's going to be your friend, and how can they be if you just kind of move around between a bunch of countries? Like you're gonna meet so many different people, and you cannot expect all these people to like you too. Like that's not realistic. Build kind of a sense of, it's okay if not everyone likes me. It's okay if people have criticism on me, because if you move to a different country, that's like so much to take in, like mentally, physically. You have so much to do, especially if you come there for a reason to like study or work. You don't have time for all these people's opinions, right? Like, okay, maybe at your work, at your studies, like you should really cooperate and you should really take people's input and feedback very seriously, right? But outside of the thing that's important to you, like your work or studies, all this noise, it's just not really helpful. And people are not gonna understand the choices you make in life, and that's fine. Like, it just happens. It's fine. I don't understand all the choices other people make in their life too. But at the same time, something I learned living in all these countries, there's wonderful people everywhere. I made so many good friends, like friends for life. I met so many wonderful people. I met amazing people in Sweden. I met so many wonderful people in Japan. Like my colleagues in Japan on the JET program, looking back on it, they were so nice. And especially if you live abroad with other people who live abroad too, like you really find friends for life, and you can really build on each other when things go south. It's really important, and something I really learned from this whole trip in living in these 4 countries, like people are really nice. There are generally more wonderful people than that they are not. I really genuinely believe this. Like, and also it's nice because like obviously you move away and you like leave the place, and then okay, like some people you don't talk to them as much anymore, and it's kind of like sizzles out. But there's always like 1, 2, or 3 people who will still make the effort to call you, FaceTime you. It's almost kind of like a filter, and you know, like some of these people, they will be your friends for life. I think next, which kind of binds into this previous notion of getting to know yourself. You have to get comfortable with just being alone. You have to get really comfortable with yourself, being alone, doing things alone. So lately there's been this trend of people taking themselves on dates, like solo dates, etc., right? Which, it sounds funny, like everyone's like making fun of it, but it's really good. It's actually really good. You need to be comfortable being alone with your feelings, with your thoughts. Yeah, and also because when you live abroad, you will meet other international people and you will meet local people, right? And especially the other international people, they all have their own problems really far away in some distant place that you know nothing about, right? I mean, I met people from countries I've never been and maybe I'll never go, and I don't even know what they look like, right? So it's not that people don't want to do things with you, they're just busy doing their own thing, having their own lives. Honestly, what really changed everything for me was when I just started to do stuff alone. Go out, have a coffee by yourself, go read a book. You don't have to go super far, you just have to do stuff by yourself. Like even yesterday here, I just went alone for a walk in the park. Like, I feel like we should really destigmatize being alone. Like, it's completely fine to be alone. Yeah, I know, I like being with people, like it's so much fun, but I like being alone too. There's no shame in being alone, it's fine. Many people are alone. Even if you're in a place for another long time, you should really try to make it your home. Put stuff, put decorations, put your pictures. Like I have a wall full of Polaroid pictures there of my friends. Even when it's just a short time, even when it's 4 months, even when it's like 6 months, just like do it. Because of this trend of moving abroad on the internet, right? People don't like to talk about the money part. And that's why, what I was saying previously, I don't really understand people who move abroad when they don't have a goal like studies or work. There's just a lot of random expenses. You have to keep buying stuff over and over, right? Like you have to keep buying the same things. Like I've literally bought a coffee pot for 3 times now because I couldn't bring the coffee pot or whatever, right? So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. It's not just a plane ticket and living there, but just having stuff. Like you need certain stuff, right? Like you need a hairbrush, you need clothes. You cannot always bring all your clothes. I really hope that my reflections on living abroad, living in a bunch of different countries were helpful. Even though maybe some of the things I've said sound quite negative, I want to try and paint like a realistic picture of what it is and not sell you some like, it's all great and it's wonderful and everything's fine. Yeah, uprooting your life is a big deal. Don't let anyone make it seem like it's not. None of your friends, your family, people on the internet. Yeah, I mean, have a nice day and maybe see you next time.